Hey, welcome to another episode of Electrical Theology. I'm your host, Charles, and this is where we deal with the esoteric perspective. And what is esoteric? It's just your internal self. It is the internal universe that is inside this shell. Just as a cup of ocean has and contains all that there is within the ocean, or the essence of the ocean itself. And just within the cosmic seas, we are all players, if you will. We're all participants in the unfolding moment. And the best way to attain your health, wealth, and love, or what it is you want it to have in this life, is by undefending the heart. And yes, I know that word's not a word, undefended. Or maybe, I don't know. All words are made up. There are no wrong or right words. I thought there was a great piece of news I heard the other day is that there is now a black dictionary. And it is, as it sounds, it's not an evil black. It's from the black communities that they've worked on this for years and years, and it's finally come out. And it now gives legitimacy to a group of people who, by their own upbringing and their societies, have a different way of communicating. Right? It's no different than ones and zeros. It's no different than King's English in the sense that it's a form of communication, but it's their own unique style, which I thought was an amazing thing and an amazing feat to put that dictionary together. I recommend y'all picking that up. I think they said it was for sale or something. I'm not sure, but I thought that was a great thing about bringing forth what it is you want to be and not have it seem like it's less than or more than somebody else's. And so, by unfolding your moments with an undefended heart, we begin to align with the esoteric energy. Right? Esoteric and energy is sort of the same word for me, but we unfold to the energy and we go with the flow. Right? And we're going to do this by taking responsibility for your thoughts, actions, and emotions, guys. What do we mean by that? It means that they're your thoughts to begin with, they're your emotions, they're your actions. You created them. Right? And yes, there are outside influences that affect us, but that's up to us how we interpret that and then how we behave accordingly, but that's our behavior. Right? You always have a choice, and it may not be a great choice. You may have two crappy choices, right? But you still have a choice. Even not making a choice is still a choice, right? But anyway, we've been talking about the realms of expanding consciousness. And we know that we have the mechanical realm that has the physical, mental, and spiritual stages or gates. The chemical realm, which has the same three, and the electrical realm that has the same three gates. And these, again, are portals, frequencies that you can tap into. If you're open and undefended, you can tap into the higher frequencies and communicate with other beings, places, dimensions. And I know that sounds out there, but what it also does is help you not only communicate better with yourself, it helps you communicate and gives you tools to communicate better with other people, right? And that increases a good, deep relationship. So again, this basically is just what I have in front of you, which is again the secret grid that has the 1 through 7, 8 through 14, 15 through 21. And again, these numbers are just symbols. Take all this stuff away, and I'm not going to name this chart. You can use this chart however you want. You can use it for feng shui, you can use it for tarot, you can use it for fixing your car, right? It's just an energy that's coming through at a certain frequency or sequence. And we've talked about that in past videos where the energy is just coming in and flowing. And where does it come in from? Some of y'all already know, but it comes in from that. And that comes into this. This creates Shambhala. Shambhala then puts the pieces together, and then it's arced by the hierarchy or the hierarchical stages, and then it goes into God, and then that God then creates these 7 frequencies. So this is the manifestation. This chart, the secret grid, is a manifestation of that, all the way down from God. Right, we've gone over that enough. I'm not going to go over it more. But our topic today is how to gain deep strength. We've been talking about deep and superficial. Superficial is just on the surface, and we'll look at that a little bit more here. Okay? So deep is depth, delve, focus, listening, feeling, right? Deep listening, deep feeling, deep focus, right? All these are deep, right? Superficial is the surface, right? It's just your face. It's just topical. It's not what's within you. It's just what you're showing the world. Your duplicity, your sophistication, which just means two-faced, right? It's our facade, the fake front, right? But it shouldn't be fake. It should be exactly, our words should match our undefended heart. There shouldn't be a filter. And so most of us speak within the superficial, the shallow, the topical, the distracted area where we're easily distracted. We're not focused. We're not deep focused. We're not deep listening. And so this today is about understanding what deep listening is, but we're not going to go deep into the listening today. That's going to be next video, right? The next video is going to go into the 4 communication stages, if you will, of different levels. I'll touch on them today, but tomorrow will be a more focused, right? Today is superficial as far as just bringing you what strength is. What is strength? It's your perseverance. It's how you're able to get through life. When everything's tough, when everything's not going your way, you still persevere, which is service, right? Your perseverance is just serving, continually to serve no matter what happens, right? When I was a kid growing up in church, we used to sing the song deep and wide, there's a fountain flowing deep and wide. And so at a young age, I understood this to be that it was universe, it was electricity, it was energy. It helped me understand that God was, when I heard the terms omnipotent and omnipresent, all those good words, is that my little brain thought and went, okay, how can this man figure that we were sort of iconizing, how can it be everywhere? Does it have a lot of people? Does it have, is it in a spaceship just observing us? Are they aliens? Right? This is what my head thought back then. And then I understood God to be electric. It wasn't a figure, right? There's iconic figures on Earth walking around that embodies sort of a higher, deeper connection to higher intelligence or a faster frequency of communication. But even at a young age, I understood this song to be deep and wide, deep and wide. This is the vastness of the void of that. And there's a fountain flowing deep and wide, right? So when you really sang these church songs, I understood it to be from an esoteric, even though I didn't know what esoteric was at that age. I was just beginning to really delve deeply into the supernatural and paranormal, even though I had been reading and studying it, but I was starting to delve into it. And so when I hear the little songs like row, row, row your boat gently down the stream, and I heard deep and wide, I understood this to be the flowing of the energy from what now we call that, or the void, or the black hole. They're all the same, right? So this explains deep and superficial for our conversation today. Tomorrow we'll talk more deep. Today is more superficial. So deep strength. When we need to dig down deep to get through life, to understand life sometimes, even through the hard times of makeups and breakups and death and birth and being fired, what have you, how do we get through to the next stage? Just as we've talked about the next stage, right? Each one of these have stages, remember, or gateways or portals or frequencies that we're tapping into, which is just our brain and heart's ability to open up to what is out there in the deep and wide space. And today we're just talking about the duration or the depletion of your strength, right? So deep strength is digging down deep, really having the will. We talked about will, wisdom, and action. And this will, how do we get this will to go into action? We need the wisdom. How do we get the wisdom? By going through these deep experiences, right? Going through the uncomfortable experiences, going through the inconvenient and hardships and trials and tribulations, right? So what's going to get us through our understanding a little bit more of why do we need deep communication? Why do we need deep listening? Right? Because if you're not deeply listening to yourself and your emotions and your thoughts, then you're not going to hear yourself. Therefore, you're not going to be able to change your direction. Right? You're not going to be able to direct your ions. Right? So deep listening is going to help you create relationships, deep relationships. And yes, I also mean galactic or universal relationships to their ships. Yes, there are physical ships other than from our world. They're off-worlders, and they have their ships that have communications aboard, and antennas and batteries and transmitters and receivers and demodulators. And they work on there, so it's going to help you connect to those ships and have conversations with those ships. Right? For whatever the reason you choose to have conversations, if it's a cheese whiz information and just back and forth, that's fine. They got some of those, but there are also, these ships are also on their missions. They're also missing ions. They're gathering information out in the solar system and galaxies and wormholes and all that stuff, just as we are beginning to do here on Earth. We're just now coming up with the formulas, right? And when I say in the last 50 years, 100 years, whatever, we're just now coming up with the theories and putting these theories into practice. But these other galactic family members have been doing this for a while, and they already have spaceships, right? But where we start really understanding the spaceships is that we are ourselves a spaceship, right? We have donned on a frequency suit that can handle the frequencies of this galactic sea, this ocean we talked about, right? The live stream, the deep and wide stream. So this is going to lead to deep relationships, which that then will lead to being heard, right? In relationships, a lot of people aren't heard. They can talk all day long, but the other person's not hearing. Why? We'll get into that in a minute. When you're heard, you're validated, right? You're valid, right? That means that you then feel received, right? And then therefore it creates a deeper connection. There's that deep connection or connected ion, so I'm able to connect to these ships by having a deep relationship, not only with myself, but with other people, right? Is this okay? This conversation's okay with you guys? Is this making sense to you? All right, great. Like I'm really hearing you. Anyway, so this leads to stronger signals, which is sort of the same thing as connection. I'm getting signals. Now, signals we can hyphenate as sign and AL, which is a sign of God, God's frequency. Once I get into God's frequency, all the beings that are in existence within their frequencies, basically, if they're in physical form, are created from the God frequency. Not the anthropomorphic religious God, but the esoteric God, or the electricity that has been stepped down from this Shambhala hierarchy. Right? Does that make sense to you? All right. My little head's hiding here. So this leads to a stronger signal, which means you're going to be able to transmit a stronger signal, which means that the galactic family, the esoteric waves, the frequencies, you're able to open up these things and then be able to pull in more ions because you have more power, right? You can have a deeper, stronger signal. The stronger your signal, the further you can go, the deeper you can go. And through that, I can collect more information and then use that more energy, those ions. Information, again, is just formed ions, that I can take that formed ion and use that to make what it is I'm choosing and committed to in this life to have formed or manifested. Make sense? The more energy I collect, the stronger my signal, the more areas of space I can contact, the more people or beings I can contact, the more information I can gather, the more I can use that to manifest. Right? If I only have 2 pieces or a small amount of Play-Doh, I can't push it through and make a star. But if I have a lot more Play-Doh, I can then push it through and make a star or moon or any of these things. And what this is going to lead to is having deeper feelings. When we unfold that heart, right, it's going to get scary for some people because in doing this work, you're going to open up to deeper feelings. You're going to feel things deeper. As a hypersensitive, whatever name you want to give this, I feel everyone's frequency. And so through electrical theologies and these frameworks, it's helped me filter out everyone's energy. So then I know what's mine. I'm not just at everyone's whim of energy. I'm not going to be the victim of other people's energy or light bulbs or sounds or colors or whatever. I'm not going to be triggered by everything, right? When someone speaks to me or claps their hands, I'm not going to be triggered, right? So this all leads to having the ability to open up more frequencies or gates, right? So the four stages of deep listening right? Or 4 stages, the 4 gates of listening. Again, we're just opening up gate by gate. We're not going to open them all at once. Again, if you're hypersensitive, if you're extrovert, introvert, whatever, you're going to feel these and you're going to act a certain way. If you're an introvert, it's going to make you maybe close up even more, right? And if you're an extrovert, it may make you even louder than what you are, right? And people may not understand that intensity. They're going to get that intensity, right? And deep listening, when you're deeply listening to someone, you're intently attentive. You're listening. And again, this is sort of superficial, but you're going to be intensely listening, right? We'll get into that again more tomorrow, and I'll touch on it today. But right now, I just want to give you the 4 stages. So the first stage is superficial, and we talked about this a little bit. Superficial is it's just on the surface. It's just topic, roads and weathers, right? As I get older and I listen to the generation above me that's still around, their greeting is, hi, did you hear so-and-so's in the hospital? Did you hear so-and-so died? Did you hear so-and-so had an operation? Or it's all about their physical limitations. I understand that, right? Getting old sucks for some people, right? But for others, it's a nice, they understand the transition that's about to occur, so they embrace it. And so, but most people will talk about roads and weathers. Hi, how are you? Great. When I walk into a restaurant, they're like, hi, my name is so-and-so. What can I get you today? Or how are you? And so I'll say something totally off thing to see if they're even listening, right? I'll go off script, if you will, to that banter back and forth. And I'm like, I'm doing shitty today. How are you? Right? And I'm saying it with a smile. And they're like, oh, great, me too, right? To see if they're even listening. They're not. They're just superficial, right? Back in the day when I had restaurants and stuff like that, or worked at restaurants, then that was a great time to practice deep listening. The deeper I listened to people, the more I didn't have to memorize or write stuff down even. I can take a table of 8's order without, and all their sides without having to write it down. And they're like, aren't you going to write this down? No. And I'll repeat it back to them because I was deeply, intently listening to them, right? And this, because of this, people thought they were impressed by this. So they tipped better, right? So it created a deeper connection and relationship with these people, and they may have found it however they did, but it increased my value, right? The tips were bigger, right? But that's superficial. But if I just talk roads and weather and did the same rehearsal conversation that everyone has, then you're going to get what everyone else gets, right? The second one is attentive. I'm attentive to I'm listening to a degree, but this attentive is still sort of superficial, right? I can say, hi, how are you? Right? And as you're talking to me, I'm sort of not really paying attention. I'm looking over your shoulder, my cell phone rings, something like that. So it's just, it's a layer deeper than superficial, but it's one layer above focused. Now, focus sounds like that should be good, and in some sense it is, but focus, the third one is paying attention to some degree, but are in their heads thinking about what to say next before hearing you out. Which means you're saying something and they got 3 retorts right back at you, right? They're already five sentences into the conversation, and then when they say something back at you and you're not heard or received because they're 3 conversations ahead, then they're going to get frustrated. They're going to get angry, or they're going to get defensive. Right? And then they're going to just yell or walk away from you. You're like, what did I do? Right? Because you're in your head, right? You're focused and listening, but at the same time, you're already got 3 sentences ready to go. So deep listening is, I don't have anything going on in my head. I am just listening, watching their body language, deeply looking at all their movements, right? Their physicality, what's going on with that, their micro expressions, what's going on in that. I'm listening to the tones of which they're coming out. If they're saying, yeah, they're having a great day, but it's whiny and scratchy, then they're not. What they're saying is not congruent with what I'm hearing. Does that make sense? So deep listening, I'm taking everything in. I'm taking in the tonation, the tonal energy of that conversation, that voice, right? And when I'm hearing with my eyes, as I say, and seeing with my ears, right, and all my other senses. So I'm deeply listening, and I'm only mainly going to just reframe or say the last few letters to let them know that they're being received and I heard what they said, right? And I'm being genuine because I don't have anything else in my head, right? Now, if something after they're done talking, and then I'm like, I heard something they said, but I'm not doing anything with it until they're done. Now, once they're done, then I can take what stuck in my head and ask them a question. Right? But most of the time I'm just reframing back at them which is allowing them to be heard, which especially when you're doing NLP or neuro-linguistic programming coaching or electrical or spiritual coaching, whatever, psychology coaching, whatever coaching you want to do, is that by listening deeply with that client or that person or that lover or that family member, by listening deeply, they feel open, right? By you being open, because you're wide open, there's nothing there, there's space. And when they're talking, it's filling the space, your space, if you will. And then with that, they feel heard. And so it allows them to genuinely communicate what's on their heart. So it gives them the opportunity, again, port for unity, to commune with you and start connecting with you on a deep level, right? So those are the four, guys. We'll talk about more of those tomorrow in a more in-depth stage. But today I want to do, in order to have strength, in order to persevere through what's getting you down or what's a hard time, or what may just be a challenging time, by being deeply listening to yourself and listening to what's around you, listening to the signals, you'll be able to then hear the signals deeply, and you will feel what needs to be done in that moment. All right? If you physically, mentally, or spiritually, or mechanically, chemically, or electrically drained, or feeling drained, or tired, or depressed, or any of this stuff, or frustrated, impatient, right? It's because there may be a weak signal, right? Signs of weak signals, right? A sign of all, or God, right? So where are you not connecting deeply with God energy? Right? God and energy is the same word for me, but just for this explanation, with energy, anytime I say energy, I say God. When I say energy, it's Shambhala. When I say God, it's this or that, or hierarchy. It's all the same to me. Right? I know that's redundant when I say that, but hopefully you understand that everything is just energy. So when we can get away from the names and just deeply listen to our state of being, then we're connected with that space within. And from that space within is where our thoughts are created. So now, by being in deep connection and relationship with yourself, then you can deeply understand yourself and be aware and have the will to get through the actions, the willpower to get through what you're going through with wisdom. And so when you have this open space, you have the wisdom. Wisdom is just wise, being wise, right? So we got to listen to the signs of the universe or energy coming from within. We got to listen deeply. If you're superficially living a life, superficially talking, you don't even know the vocabulary you're using, right, or the intent behind it, then you won't understand when someone's communicating with you. The first area where miscommunication happens is when the mouth opens up. All right? So weak God signal, right? And signal also means sing, or again, verse, vibration, frequency, waveform, wavelength. It's all the same here. So when we sing our own unique verse, right, that is about being thankfulness. We're full of thanking, right? And this is on the physical realm. So here's a practice I'd like to encourage you to do, right? So every morning when you wake up, right, and specifically started at night, so when you wake up, it's already there. So at the end of the day, when you're ready for bed and you're sitting in bed, and when you're sitting in bed, I want you to deeply focus on your body, your physical body, the blood, the bones, all that good stuff, right? And I want you to say, I am thankful. I want you to stop at the I am, because you're the I, and the am is sort of the verb of you, the action of the I, or the I and the thou, or the that and the this, right? Or the hierarchy and the God, all the same. They do have their unique differences, but behind each thing, again, but behind 9 volt, behind 110, 220, 440, 880, 10,000, it's all electricity. We're just playing with it. Right? I cannot control the winds, but I can adjust my sails. And so how I adjust the sails so I have a better journey, or a better quest for the ions, is that I want to be thankful for this mechanical shell, this ape suit, this flesh bag, right? In one sense, it's resilient, but it's extremely weak. I can throw a knife through it and split it open, or you can punch me a few times and nothing's going to happen. It'll be a little sore, but you get my point. So be thankful for the mechanical shell. Now, gratitude is about the mental or the mechanical realm. Right? And so gratitude, right? Have that attitude for gratitude, as we say. And having the great, so then we get in deep focus with our mental state, right? Our mind, our psychology, our emotions, energy and motion. We get in touch with this, and then you state out loud your gratitude, gratefulness, grace. Sort of all the same word. Grace has the word arc in it, right? It's grace for the human race. So we're thankful for the body, we have gratitude for the mind, and we have appreciation. Man, look how I hyphened it. So appreciation does not mean gratitude or thankfulness, right? So on the lower realms, we're thankful and gratitude or grateful. But on the electric realm, the spiritual realm, what we're doing here is raising the value or raising your value from superficial to deep. And so when we appreciate the ions, we're raising the value, just like your house appreciates in value over years or time. Now our bodies appreciate, our spirits appreciate, right? Our minds appreciate. But in this case, we want to appreciate, which means to raise the value, right? We're going to increase and amplify our frequency up into the God realm. Make sense? And so having appreciation is not thankful or grateful. Not in this state. At this state, we raise the value of the ion. Right? We're increasing not only our emotional value by raising our spiritual value, we're also raising our physical value. We value our bodies, this temple. Right? Temple means temp, has temp in it, which is in time and space. So as long as I'm in this space and this time with this suit, the longer I can experience and gather more ions, so I can add it or integrate it, so I can complete my mission. Right? I have a better life, whatever that means to me. Right? So signs of disconnection, right? We're disconnected. So when you're feeling weak, it's because you're disconnected from the ions or your higher frequency or God or any of these forms of energy. You're distracted easily. You're divided easily by other people. Easily distracted, right? You're weak-minded. What do I mean by that? Your mind is weak. If you're believing what everyone else is saying, if you're stuck in their belief system, then you're susceptible to brainwashing, to being conditioned, to being proselytized, right? And when you fall for someone else's stuff, even if it sounds great and you're getting all excited about it, that's great, but it's not yours. You're just listening to someone else's information, how they form the ions, and presenting it in their own unique way. It's okay to get excited if that's your choice to get excited. Right? Integrate some of that information, but don't become it. Don't chase it, because it's not you. You have to create your own race. Right? So the weak-minded is that you don't have enough electricity in the body or the brain. You're burning through it too quickly. You're not taking a rest. So if you are feeling these things, right, it's time, if you're feeling ungrateful, then it's time to take a rest. And the things that you can do, we talked about the 4% cycle, that you spent all the allowance that you have. Your bank account's drained. Your cosmic bank account's gone. And so by resting the physical body, giving it nutrients, by building the mental state back up, then it allows the higher electricity to come in and fulfill those nutrients, if you will, within the mental body and the physical body. But it's also because you're not, you can see how I put the parentheses around the P? We're not raising our value. We're not appreciating enough. Right? So at the end of the day, when we go through this thankful gratitude and appreciation, when you wake up in the morning, you start the day as well with that. So you have a night of appreciation and gratitude and thankfulness. So that energy when you're sleeping is there. And when your mind's not active, in one sense, you're opening yourself to the universe. And so you're able in your dreams to tap into higher frequencies, which means you're going to begin having unique dreams or visitations or going out there. So by ways to raise your value or your amplitude or increase the frequency wavelengths, your deep connectedness, is that understand that you may not be praising yourself enough or others or what you have. Right? You're taking for granted what you have. Right? At any time right now, if your health, wealth, or love was taken away, how would your life be different? So make sure you're praising or raising your value enough, right? Because if not, then you're going to feel invalid. And invalid, we talked about before, invalid just means an invalid or sick or weak, right? So you end up with not abilities, but inabilities, right? So the inabilities, unable to read the signs, feeling of weakness and loss, blame and faulting others. This is how you know you're disconnected from the higher realms, that you're not taking responsibility for your thoughts, actions, and emotions. And it means that you're not deep listening and deep feeling, all right? So you'll eventually be the perpetual victim, prosecutor, savior complex. You want to save everyone. Why do you want to save everyone? Because you think they're the victim or sick or invalid. Well, if you start deep listening, you don't know that other person. All you can do is listen deeply and then refrain and have great back and forth conversations, not rehearsed, not rote, right? But in the moment, unfolding moment, undefended moment with a great open heart. And then that's a deep connection you're having with that person, even if it's 5 minutes or 5 years or 50 years. All right? So strength, if you are weak, right, or superficial, you're living a superficial life, you're chasing things that will never bring you happiness because all you're going to do is get more and more and more, and the more you get, the more you have to protect, the more you get tired, and then you have to artificially stimulate the mechanical shell to keep up. Right? And then you're going to spend millions of dollars on psychiatrists and whatnot that are going to tell you or leave you in session for 7 or 8 years or however long. Right? For me, I'm not there to solve your problems. I'm there to hear and listen deeply to what it is you want to do with your problems. And I'm going to be able to mirror and reflect and refrain, right, through neuro-linguistic programming, through letting you understand what it is and what it is you want to do, what's your present state to your desired state, we talked about. So the idea is open your heart. We talked about how to open your heart, deeply listen to yourself, unfold the moment, release the flow of that energy that you're holding on to, right? Attitude and gratitude, guys. Have an attitude of gratitude. No matter how things and how worse things get in your perspective, always wake up with that gratitude, that thankfulness, and that appreciation, right? It will give you something to focus on other than going down the drain, right? And we talked about this a little bit while ago, but rest, go into hiding, self-evaluation, revalue yourself, evaluate what just happened, right? And what are the thoughts around that you're giving that, and why are you thinking that thought? How is it serving you? Is it serving you? Is it something you're ready to release, right? Whatever you're thinking, think the opposite, right? Look for opportunities, right? Look for opportunities for unity, to be one with yourself, to bring the heart and mind back together again, right? Hopefully that's making sense to you guys. So basically, how do we fill up on strength? We just went over some of those. Everyone does what they do because they want an emotional fill-up. They want to feel good, right? They look for other people, places, and things to help them feel good, but it's only going to be superficial and temporary. And so if it's temporary, they're going to have to go to other things to get an emotional fill-up, right? But emotional fill-up is that I'm always filled up. I'm always flowing. My tank doesn't have a start and finish, if you will. It's always opening and unfolding, right? So again, thought is energy. We talked about this perseverance leads to more energy, thus more thought clarity, and more energy with which to manifest your thoughts in form. We talked about this earlier about being able to tap into more energy, to have a deeper connection, opening up to more realms, other spaceships, other beings, and then being able to have more energy to pull down to fill those missing ions up. That will then help us, if you will, go faster in manifesting if you need things to go faster, if you need things to manifest a little slower. Like if you're in a relationship and it's going too fast, and slow it down. But you have that ability to speak up and state your boundaries because you're a deep listener. And if they're not listening, then you have a choice. You can leave that relationship or look deeply into their eyes, touch them on their shoulders or their hands or somewhere, and tell them deeply what it is you want them to know about you. Vice versa too. All right. So the more experiences helps to navigate. We've been talking about these gates. It's going to help you go in and out and open and close these gates, right? And being able to manifest again the things you want, right? You'll be able to take the unthing or the no thing and bring it into the thing world, into some thing, person, place. Okay? All right, guys, I think that'll be about do it. It's another long video, but hopefully you're liking it. If you are, please like, subscribe, share, right? Let's get this video out to a lot of people, guys. I need the likes and the subscribe. My goal is to get to 1,000 subscriptions, right? So help me do this. Share the love, share the wealth, and I'll continue to share my wealth and love as well, if you give it to me or not. All right, guys? Because I'm here to just give free information to people who may not have the funds or be able to pay for that psychiatrist or get the drugs, that here's an alternative. And I'm not saying it's a replacement. I'm just saying it's an alternative that you can look at and see if it works for you. Right? Take from it what works for you, throw away the rest. Integrate what works. Practice some of these things if they work for you. If it continually works, then keep doing it. All right? All right, guys, that'll be about do it. So appreciate you hanging in there and listening to me. And I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Thanks.